In tutorial 5, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the save function. This is going to allow us to save a spot for where the player is or where the player could start, and then also have like a kill box based off of a tag name, and we can put that box anywhere we want so that if the player falls off the edge, he'll start back over at the start point. And the start point is only one of the points. We can add additional points, so if you want to have save features along the way, you could just click, you could place different boxes along the way. So, getting started with this one, let's go ahead and just go to the character. So inside, be sure that in the scenes, just click on the tutorial 5, and in the hierarchy, just go to your player. And on your player, you should notice that you have the spawn save setup script right here. Go ahead and just double click on it to open it up. And inside of this one, what we want to do is just start working over a basic system for the spawn points and replacing character, moving them around. In your items in the hierarchy, you should notice that you have a new item here. This is going to be a prefab savePoints. Inside of the scene, you'll see that we have basically a kill box. I've just made a long item right here, a long line. Collision box, as well as a collision box for where the player can start. In the prefab option, you'll see two different ones. You'll see this one and the one for that. Alright, so what we'll do is work up a script that we'll place onto the player from right here, and then we can assign the kill box and the save point to those if we need to. Alright, so getting started with this one, let's go ahead and just come up with the basic setup for it. Similar like we've done before, though, for our approach, let's go ahead and put a little bit of a header up here for us. Oops. Oh, looks like we gotta get there we go. Okay. So with this one, we'll just call this one a spawn save player location setup. And this is boys, and then we'll have a description. Now the description. This is basically, it's going to saves the player position or location. We'll have it as a save points along the way for basically spawning after death based on the kill box if the player walks off the edge. It could also be if the player gets hit by an enemy and has to restart, same kind of thing. Idea for how it works in terms of instructions, let's kind of think of it as basically going to be something where we place save points, game objects with collision in the scene, and we want to have it with tag names, so we'll call this one save point, and then also we'll have the ability to place kill boxes in the scene with tag names as well. We just call it kill box, or if you want to call it something different, you're more than welcome to call it something different here. And then let's have what's going to happen to it is just it sends the object to whatever the most recent save point was the player went through. So let's say currently sends player to most recent save point location. Alright. So we've got our instructions, we've got our description, and we have our basic idea of what's going to happen with it. What we want to do is actually just create the main thing, which is just going to be a trigger event. Okay? And then if the player walks through on a trigger event and a tag is equal to a particular name, the two names being a kill box or a what was the other one, save point. So if it's either one of those, then we can activate an element inside the trigger to actually do something. The objects we have inside of here on the save point, the kill box right now has a tag set to kill box right there. Same thing for the save point. Save point currently has a tag named save point. So those would be the two names we use when we're looking for the tag name. If you need any other objects, so for instance, if you had 20 different kill boxes, all different sizes, you could label them as long as they have the kill point, then it's automatically going to know that what it needs to do to that object. Alright, so let's see, starting off with, let's go ahead and define a couple of variables that we may want to have in it. First one, now, some of these, let's see, we'll go ahead and just go for the basic variables that we know we're going to be able to use. We use a start point. This will be where we have our player starting, and we'll just get a transform of it. Alright, and let's go ahead and just kind of define things while we go. This is going to be where the player is going to start in the game. And we want to make sure, I just want to put this on the side as a reminder, is that I want it to be optional, so that if you're setting up the game for the first time, you don't know about start points, if you don't put one inside the scene, it's not going to worry about it. It'll just put the character wherever the character currently is in the scene. Okay. Then we also want to have, we can place in, we'll go ahead and, since this is a smaller script, we'll go ahead and just kind of put in all the elements all together for the variable types. We'll put in a sound file. We'll just call this one sound die. That way, if he falls into the box, the kill box, he'll actually just play in a sound for it. All right, sound for death. And then we have the sound. Since we're playing a sound, we can go ahead and put in a basic sound function like we did before. You could copy what we have before from the previous character controller, or you could just rewrite it again for practice. This one will be the sound rate, and we'll just have a float for it, which will just be equal to 0. Alright, so this is going to be a variable, holds the current time, if you remember, plus the delay amount. And then we had another private variable that was the sound delay, and this was actually the delay amount for it. And right now we'll just set it to 0. And this is the amount of time to delay before playing the sound again. Alright. And then we have one other one on our private variables. We just want to make a private variable. This can be the current save position. Alright. And this one is going to be one that we just store in an initial start file. So for this one, we'll just make it a vector 3 because we want to be able to store the XYZ coordinate for the player. So this is going to be the current saved position of player. Alright. So with that, let's go ahead and start in. We'll go ahead and just rewrite the sound function that we had before. So if you remember, actually, here let's just grab it up from the other player controls. So if you have your player controls file open, you can just go to the first function, the play sound, and we're just going to copy and paste this one in. It's a small function, so it's fine. Like, at least for me, I don't mind just putting the same function inside of here instead of making a separate call to it. If you're going to use it all the time, it may be worth just making it into a little bit larger of a function, more complete, and then just having calls made to it. For this one though, we'll have our sound function inside of here. This is exactly the same one we just had. We still have the same names for these variables, so everything should work out just fine for it. Let's go ahead and then just jump on to the trigger event. Now for the trigger event that we have, we just want to make sure that we're checking for tag names. So we'll start off by just defining a function on trigger event, and it's going to be on trigger enter. So we want to check only when the character actually enters the box. And the trigger enter, we'll just do the typical other and collider. Alright, so for this one, inside of it, we're going to check to see if the other, the other is going to be the collision that occurs. The script is assigned to the character, so that means that when it hits one of these other objects, the safe point area here or the kill box out here, it's going to check for that object's name. So we'll say that other tag is going to equal the save point. So if it is save point, which remember the tag name save point here. Alright, so if the player enters an object with a tag name of savePoint, what we can do is actually have the current save position equal that object's position. So we'll say current save position, okay, and we just want to say that it's going to be equal to. Now sometimes you might see something like this. It'll be this dot transform dot position. Do you have to type it this way? Nope. You can actually just type in is going to equal transform.position. Sometimes when reading it as a sentence, though, it's a little bit easier to say save current position is equal to this, meaning this object's transform position. So either way you want to write it, that's fine. It's going to translate out the same way. So with this one, though, this is going to actually allow us to have the player's current position stored inside of the current save position. Okay? Now, that means that when the player moves by, it'll actually store it so that we can actually call it back up later. Alright, so let's go ahead and drop down one more. Let's do one more check here. We have the killBox object, so we'll say checking for the other object's name. If the other object inside the scene has a tag name of killBox, then let's go ahead and do a couple of things inside of it. Oops. And this one, what we want to do for it, we actually just want to take the object, our current object, and we want to make it equal to the current save position. Okay, so it's almost just like doing the exact opposite here. So we're going to say transform dot position is now going to equal current save position. Alright, so all we've done is just simply switched it around. So if you go past the save point, it makes the current save point equal to this character's location. If we have the killBox tag name, then we're just simply going to take this object, the player, back to the last current save position box we walked over. Alright, and then in order to have all of this working as well, let's do one other thing here. We want to have a function for start. Alright, and in the start function, let's go ahead and just do it. We don't want to have any issue come up in terms of the character not having a box assigned to it, so we'll just do an if statement for a check. We'll say that if the start point is not equal to null, so if there is an object inside of startPoint transform, and only if there is, then do the following. Alright, so inside of this, we'll just say that this transform position is going to equal, oops, it's going to equal the start point. There we go. Position. Alright. So if there is a box inside the scene and it's taken into the inspector and dropped into here, then the object at start, this object, meaning the player, is going to actually equal the current start position of the box. Okay, so if we take, let me tab this over here. So it's not too difficult to actually move them around. It's just a little bit of thinking when it comes to setting this up initially. If you were doing it on your own, it might be a little bit more complicated the first time around. But once you start to get the idea of what you're moving around, what you're finding, it becomes a little bit easier. So again, remember the main thing that we have right here is a start point, which gets fed into the start function. So on initialization, it checks to see if there is one. If there is, then it sets the player's current position to the start point of the box. Inside of here, if we go back into this and check for the character's controller, let's go back into here. On the character controller, on the spawn save point, you'll notice that you've got a start point right here, and you have a sound die point. So the start point, all I have to do is find my save point, this one right here, and I can just drag the save point onto that start point. Alright, that means that if my box, so just so you can see it here, if I take my box and I move my box all the way to the edge right there, when I play, what's going to happen is the player moves over to that spot. So again, if I was to take this up into the air and I play, the character's going to start from here and fall back down. So this allows you to put your start point wherever you want, and then the player will just automatically start up from that point. Now, if I jump off the edge, watch what happens. Okay, so did you see how the character came from there again? Right, so all it did was find the last current save position, which was right up here, and then it just placed the character up there. So again, I can also place this one down through here. And let's say we jump off the other side, and then once we hit, he winds up coming up from there. Alright, there you go. So that gives you the position. That way you can actually have a start point. You can also have multiple save points, and all you have to do is add additional boxes to create those points for it. Alright, and as long as the save points are labeled, for instance, let's do this one here. If I have this one, I make a copy of it, and make sure we're getting, yeah. So say for instance we make a copy of this one, and we'll go ahead and just do one single copy, and we'll relabel it. And we'll just say a save point. And as long as we have the tag name called savePoint, this object can be anything we want it to be. If I go over here and I put it on this side, alright, so we have a save point here, and we have our start point over here. So when I play, it's going to come up over here to start with, but watch. When I get over to this side, and I pass it, so once I've entered that box right there, so I entered it right here, that means that the character's current position, current save position, is equal to that point. So when I walk off the edge, the character comes back up right here. He doesn't come up over here, because that wasn't the last one he walked through. So the moment he walked through this one, his position updated, and gave you a new starting point. Alright? So that gives us the basic setup for the spawning to bring your character back in. If the character dies, and the death side of it could come at any point. It could be an enemy character, if it could be falling off a cliff, it could be any element that you'd like it to be that requires him to move from one spot to another spot. And this is definitely just a great starting point for that type of thing. So we'll finish off by commenting the rest of the statements through here, and that'll pretty much finish off the script for this one. Nice and simple. It's good when the code is just one page of code, nothing too long. The component itself doesn't do enough to really require going outside of this. You could certainly put in some more features to make it even more robust, but for what we want it to, how we want it to work for the Mario game, it works for what it needs to be. So let's see, we're gonna check for event on this one, and then we'll just say that if the save point tagged on anything. So if the save point tagged on anything, then the player's current position is stored in the current save position variable. And if the killBox is tagged on anything, then again, same thing, then make player position equal to the last current save position. Alright, and then we'll jump to our start function, and we'll just say a one-time initialization. And there we go, initialization. Alright, and for this one, we just want to do a quick check. So, quick check if start point exists. Then, if it does exist, then make the player position equal to the start point position in game. That should make good enough sense for that part of it. Let's make sure we got everything there. Okay, So the sound file as well. So again, if you want to do the sound file on this one, you can say that if the player tag name is actually set on the killBox right there, that you could actually place it. Let's go ahead and just put it in here. We'll say if this one, then let's play the sound as well. We actually didn't have that one in there, so we'll say play sound, sound name. This can be sound die, and the delay, we'll go ahead and just set to 0 on that one. Play audio clip for sound die. Alright. And that one, let's go back into here. We should have a audio file for that one. Let's click back on our character. And on the audio file, look for just the Mario, let's see, Mario death right there. And we can drag that one onto the sound die clip. That way when he falls off as well, he'll fall off and then he'll wind up making a sound as he falls off. So, we play that one. There. So if you could hear that, I don't know if you heard it or not, but it played through with the death side. Alright. So that gives us all of the code that we need to set this up. We've got everything commented in. And this will be this will just be the nice kind of basic starter for the spawn script for us.